Stop! I screamed as the train began to roll and speed away, my hands still fumbling with my suitcase, unable to catch up to the train that was now a good distance away. Through the glass window, yes, I couldn't be mistaken, my mother-in-law was showing a mocking, contemptuous smile directed at me. "Don't worry, honey. We'll send you pictures," Margaret called out sweetly from inside the train, her voice sickeningly fake as the Amtrak doors closed completely, leaving me standing alone on the platform at Grand Central Terminal. My husband Ryan waved goodbye through the window with an awkward smile, boarding the luxury train to Boston that I had paid $8,000 for. A family vacation that suddenly didn't include the family member who funded it entirely. But when they returned 3 days later, expecting to find me crying at home, I was sitting in my kitchen with a very special gift waiting for them. Hey everyone, if you're enjoying this story, please hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. Now let me take you back to how a simple family trip became the moment I finally took my life back. It all started 6 months earlier when Ryan lost his job at a tech startup. Instead of telling his family the truth, he kept up the charade, leaving the house every morning in his business clothes, spending entire days at Starbucks applying for jobs on his laptop, then coming home complaining about his demanding boss and difficult clients. Meanwhile, I was working 60 hours a week as a senior financial analyst at Goldman Sachs, making $180,000 a year while Ryan contributed exactly $0 to our living expenses. But according to my mother-in-law Margaret, I was the problem. "Emily is always so focused on her career," she would whisper to relatives at family gatherings, loud enough for me to hear. "Poor Ryan works so hard, yet she's never home to take proper care of him." The irony could have been funny if it wasn't so infuriating. I was paying our $4,200 monthly rent in Manhattan, covering Ryan's student loan payments, groceries, utilities, everything. Yet somehow in Margaret's narrative, I was the selfish wife neglecting her hard-working husband. When Ryan suggested we plan a family trip to Boston for his cousin's wedding, I saw it as an opportunity to finally bond with his family. Maybe if we spent quality time together, Margaret would see that I wasn't the villain in her son's life story. "Let's do it right," I told Ryan. "Book Amtrak Acela business class for everyone. Your parents, Kate's family, and us. We'll stay at the Four Seasons. Make it a real celebration." Ryan's eyes lit up. "Babe, that's going to cost about $8,000 total. Are you sure?" I was sure. I wanted his family to see that I cared about them, that I was willing to invest in our relationships. I transferred the money that same day and watched Ryan handle all the booking arrangements. He was so excited to play the generous son and brother, organizing everything as if he were the one footing the bill. The morning of departure, we met at Grand Central Terminal at 6:45 a.m. to catch our 7:15 train. Margaret arrived wearing a new cream-colored designer coat and matching handbag, both items I had seen her eyeing at Saks the week before. "Oh, this old thing?" she said when Kate, Ryan's sister, complimented the coat. "Ryan bought it for me as a little thank you gift." She shot me a pointed look. Such a thoughtful son. I bit my tongue. That old thing cost $1,200, and I had seen the charge on our joint credit card 3 days earlier. As our departure time approached, I excused myself to buy coffee for the group, a venti pike place for Ryan, a skinny vanilla latte for Margaret, hot chocolate for Kate's kids. When I returned carrying 4 drinks, the platform was in chaos. "There you are!" Margaret called out, but she was already walking quickly toward the train doors. "Hurry up, everyone's boarding!" I rushed after them, weaving through the crowd of commuters, trying not to spill the drinks. Ryan was ahead, carrying both his and my suitcase, but he didn't slow down or look back. Margaret was practically power walking, her new heels clicking against the platform. "Wait!" I called out when I saw them reach the train. I'm right behind you. Margaret paused at the door and turned around. For a split second, our eyes met. She looked at me, struggling with the drinks, 20 feet away, and I saw something flicker across her face. Not concern, not urgency, something else entirely. Then she stepped onto the train. "Margaret, wait!" I shouted, breaking into a run. But the conductor was already doing his final check, and the doors began their closing sequence. I reached the train just as the doors sealed shut. Through the window, I could see Margaret settling into her seat, carefully arranging her new coat. Ryan was stowing luggage overhead, completely oblivious to what had just happened. I banged on the window. Ryan looked over, and his face went pale when he saw me still on the platform. He started toward the door, but Margaret grabbed his arm and said something to him. The train lurched forward. My phone rang immediately. "Emily? What happened? Why aren't you on the train?" Ryan sounded panicked. "Your mother left me," I said simply. "She saw me coming and got on anyway." "It was an accident, honey." Margaret's voice came through the phone as Ryan put me on speaker. "We thought you were right behind us. You should have moved faster. Anyway, why don't you just go home and rest? You work too hard anyway." Go home and rest, while they enjoyed my $8,000 vacation without me. "We'll make it up to you," Ryan promised. "We'll take pictures, bring you back something nice." I hung up. Standing alone in Grand Central Terminal at 7:30 a.m., holding 4 overpriced coffees, I had what Oprah would call a light bulb moment. For 3 years of marriage, I'd been funding Ryan's lifestyle, enabling his lies, and enduring his mother's passive-aggressive attacks. And this was my reward. I wasn't sad. I wasn't devastated. I was furious. Instead of going home to sulk, I walked straight to the Acela business class counter. "I need to cancel 6 tickets on the 7:15 to Boston," I told the agent, handing over my credit card, the same card used for the original purchase. "Ma'am, that train just departed 2 minutes ago. There will be cancellation fees." "I don't care about fees. Cancel them all." 20 minutes later, I received 6 text messages from different phone numbers, all saying variations of, "Our tickets aren't working," and "The conductor says we're not in the system." I turned off my phone. Instead of going home, I called Sophia, my college roommate who now lived in Miami. "Remember how you always said I should visit? How does this weekend sound?" 4 hours later, I was on a flight to Florida, sipping champagne in first class while Ryan's family figured out how to get home from Albany, where their train had made an emergency stop after the ticket situation couldn't be resolved. Sophia picked me up at MIA in her convertible, and for the first time in months, I felt like myself again. "So let me get this straight," she said as we sat on South Beach that evening, cocktails in hand. "You paid for this whole trip. Your mother-in-law intentionally left you behind, and your husband just let it happen?" When she put it like that, it sounded even worse. "I kept making excuses for him," I admitted. "He's stressed about work, his family's traditional, his mother means well." "Emily, stop. Your mother-in-law doesn't mean well. She means to hurt you, and your husband is letting her." I spent 3 days in Miami remembering who I used to be before I became Ryan's wife and Margaret's favorite target. I went jet skiing, ate at amazing restaurants, danced until 2 a.m. at clubs in Wynwood. I posted pictures, not to make anyone jealous, but because I was genuinely happy for the first time in months. Meanwhile, my phone buzzed constantly with messages I didn't read. When I finally checked them on Sunday night, the story became clear. Ryan, sat, 10:23 a.m. "We're stuck in Albany. Can you wire us money for new tickets?" Kate, sat, 2:45 p.m. "Mom is crying. She says this is all a big misunderstanding." Margaret, sat, 8:19 p.m. "Emily, this is childish. We're family. Ryan, son, 11:30 a.m. We had to take Greyhound buses home. Do you know how embarrassing that was? The last message was from Ryan Sunday evening. We need to talk when you get home. Oh, we definitely needed to talk. I returned to Manhattan Monday evening to find Ryan pacing our living room like a caged animal. His hair was disheveled, his eyes red-rimmed from lack of sleep. "Where the hell have you been?" he exploded the moment I walked through the door. "Do you have any idea what you put us through? My family thinks you've lost your mind." "Your family," I said calmly, setting down my suitcase, "spent 3 days enjoying a vacation they didn't pay for while pretending they accidentally left me behind. And you helped them." "It was an accident. Mom feels terrible." "Ryan," I held up my hand. "Stop. We both know it wasn't an accident. And even if it was, what did you do when you realized I wasn't on the train?" He opened his mouth, then closed it. "You sat down," I continued. "You let your mother talk you out of getting off at the next stop. You chose them over me. That's not... I've been supporting you for 6 months, paying all our bills while you pretend to go to work every day, letting your mother insult me at every family gathering, funding this fantasy where you're the successful son and I'm the problem wife." Ryan's face went white. "You know about my job?" "Of course I know. Our apartment has thin walls, Ryan. I hear you on Zoom interviews every day while I'm working from home." He sank onto the couch, head in his hands. "I was going to tell you." "When? After I paid for your family's next vacation?" For a long moment, we just stared at each other. Then Ryan straightened up, and I saw a flash of the man his mother had raised, the one who believed he deserved to be taken care of. "Look, I know you're upset," he said, "but canceling our tickets was extreme. You embarrassed my entire family. Mom had to call her sister to wire money for bus tickets home. Kate's kids were traumatized. We're lucky the hotel honored our reservation." I blinked. "Wait, you still went to Boston? After I canceled the tickets?" "Well, yeah. We figured out other transportation. We weren't going to miss Tommy's wedding because you had a meltdown." That's when it clicked into place. This wasn't about a miscommunication or an accident. This was about power, control, my place in the family hierarchy. I walked to our bedroom, pulled my laptop from my bag, and made a phone call. "Hi, this is Emily. I need to schedule an appointment with a divorce attorney." Ryan followed me into the bedroom, his eyes wide. "Emily, come on. You're being dramatic. We can work this out." "Are you going to get a job?" I asked, without looking up from my laptop. "I'm trying." "Are you going to tell your family that you've been unemployed for 6 months?" "That's complicated." "Are you going to set boundaries with your mother about how she treats me?" Silence. That's what I thought. The next morning, I had coffee with Linda Morrison, a divorce attorney recommended by Sophia's lawyer cousin. Linda was a small woman with steel gray hair and the kind of sharp eyes that suggested she'd seen every variation of marital dysfunction. "Let me make sure I understand," she said, reviewing my notes. "You're the sole income earner, your name is on the lease, and you have documentation of all financial contributions to the marriage?" "Yes, bank statements, credit card records, everything." "And your husband has been unemployed for 6 months while pretending otherwise to his family?" "Correct." "Honey," Linda leaned forward, "this isn't going to be a complicated divorce." 3 days later, I had the papers drawn up, but I wanted to handle this my way. I texted Ryan, "Family dinner at our place Friday night. Tell your mother I'm making her favorite lasagna." Friday evening, Margaret arrived at our apartment wearing another new outfit, a silk blouse and designer jeans that probably cost more than most people's monthly grocery budget. She swept in with her usual air of ownership, already critiquing my table setting before she'd even said hello. "Emily, dear, you know I prefer white wine with Italian food," she said, eyeing the bottle of red I'd opened. "And these napkins are paper. For a family dinner?" "Mom," Ryan warned, but without much conviction. Kate and her husband James arrived with their 2 kids, and soon our small dining room was filled with the familiar chaos of a family gathering. Margaret dominated the conversation, holding court about the adventure of their Boston trip. "Of course it would have been lovely to have Emily with us," she said with a martyred sigh. "But honestly, the trip was much more relaxing without all the work stress and phone calls." I served the lasagna, actually Margaret's favorite, though she'd never admit I made it well, and waited. "This is delicious, Emily," James said. He was a good guy, married to Kate but always caught in the middle of family drama. "Thank you, James. I'm glad someone appreciates the effort." Margaret's fork paused halfway to her mouth. She sensed the shift in my tone. After we'd eaten and the kids were playing in the living room, I stood up and cleared my throat. "I want to thank everyone for coming tonight. There's something important I need to discuss." Ryan looked nervous. Margaret looked annoyed at being interrupted. "As you all know," I began, "I've been working very hard to support our family. 60-hour weeks, business trips, bringing work home on weekends." "We appreciate your dedication," Margaret said in a tone that suggested the opposite. "I'm sure you do. In fact, you appreciate it so much that when I paid $8,000 for our Boston family vacation, you made sure I got left behind at Grand Central Station." The room went silent except for the sound of the kids' cartoon playing in the next room. "That was an accident," Margaret started. "It wasn't an accident," I said calmly. "You looked right at me, saw that I was 20 feet away carrying coffee for everyone, and chose to board the train anyway." "Emily," Kate said uncomfortably, "maybe we should—" "Let me finish." My voice was steady, controlled. "For the past 3 years, I've been paying for Ryan's lifestyle. This apartment, family gifts, dinners out, vacations. I've endured constant criticism about my priorities, my cooking, my housekeeping, my career. I've been treated like an ATM who occasionally gets invited to family functions." Margaret's face was flushing red. "That's not true. We've always treated you like family. Have you?" I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. "Let me share some numbers. In the past year, I've paid $50,400 in rent for this apartment. Ryan's contribution, 0. I've paid $8,200 in groceries and household expenses. Ryan's contribution, 0. I've spent $3,100 on family gifts for birthdays, holidays, and special occasions. Ryan's contribution, 0. Ryan was staring at his plate. Margaret's mouth was opening and closing like a fish. "But the best part," I continued, "is that while I've been funding this lifestyle, Ryan's been lying to all of you about having a job. He was fired 6 months ago and has been pretending to go to work every day while I pay all the bills." Kate gasped. James's eyebrows shot up. Margaret turned to stare at her son. "Ryan?" she whispered. "I was going to tell you. When?" Margaret's voice was shrill now. "When were you going to tell me that you've been lying to us for months?" "It's complicated, Mom. The job market is tough and Emily makes enough for both of us. So it's my fault?" I asked pleasantly. "I make too much money, so it's okay for you to lie to your family and let them think I'm the problem?" The room was electric with tension. Kate was trying to shush her kids in the next room. James was studying his hands. Margaret looked like she was about to hyperventilate. "I need some air," Ryan mumbled, standing up. "Sit down," I said firmly. "We're not finished." Something in my tone made him sit. Margaret, I said, turning to my mother-in-law. Last week you told your sister that Ryan was too good for me. You said he deserved a wife who would support his dreams, instead of being so money-focused. Margaret's face went pale. How did you— Your sister Linda works at Goldman Sachs too. Small world. The silence stretched on. Finally, Kate spoke up. Emily, we had no idea about Ryan's job situation. If we'd known— Would it have mattered? I asked. Would you have treated me differently if you'd known I was supporting him? Or would you still have made comments about my work schedule and my priorities? No one answered. I reached into the sideboard and pulled out a manila envelope. Ryan, these are divorce papers. I'm filing on Monday. Margaret gasped. Ryan's head snapped up. Emily, please. I'm done. I stood up, suddenly feeling lighter than I had in years. I'm done paying for the privilege of being disrespected. I'm done funding a lifestyle for people who see me as an inconvenience. And I'm definitely done with family members who accidentally abandon me at train stations. You can't just throw away 3 years of marriage over one misunderstanding, Margaret protested. It wasn't one misunderstanding. It was 3 years of being treated like a walking credit card. The train station was just the moment I finally saw it clearly. I walked to the closet and pulled out 3 suitcases I'd packed earlier. Ryan, you have 30 days to find somewhere else to live. The lease is in my name, and I'll be keeping the apartment. Margaret, Kate, James, thank you for coming. Don't worry about doing dishes. I've got it covered. Where are you going? Ryan asked desperately. Out, I said. I'm going to have drinks with friends who actually appreciate my company, people who don't see my success as a threat or my generosity as an obligation. I paused at the door and looked back at the family sitting around my dining table, eating my food, in my apartment that I paid for. Oh, and Margaret? That coat you're wearing, the one Ryan supposedly bought you as a thank you gift? I paid for it, just like I paid for everything else. Consider it my final contribution to this family. I'm writing this from my new apartment in Tribeca, smaller than the old place, but it's mine alone. The walls are painted in colors I chose. The furniture reflects my taste. There are no family photos of people who never really saw me as family. Ryan moved back in with his parents, which was probably inevitable. I heard through Kate, who's been surprisingly supportive, that he finally got a job at an insurance company, making about half what he used to earn. Margaret has stopped asking Kate about my personal life, which I consider progress. The divorce was finalized last month. Linda was right. It wasn't complicated when one person has been supporting the other entirely. Ryan got to keep his car and his personal belongings. I got to keep my dignity and my financial independence. I'm dating again, which feels strange and wonderful. Last week I went out with Michael, a fellow financial analyst who actually picked up the dinner check without being asked. When I mentioned that I'd pay my half, he looked confused. Why would you pay? I asked you out. It was such a simple concept, but it hit me how long it had been since someone had taken care of me, even in small ways. I also reconnected with old friends I'd neglected during my marriage. Sophia visits regularly now, and we're planning a girls' trip to Greece this summer. My treat. But this time I'm only paying for people who actually want me there. Sometimes I wonder if I was too harsh, if I should have tried harder to make things work. But then I remember standing alone on that platform at Grand Central, watching the train pull away with my husband and his family aboard, and I know I made the right choice. I don't owe anyone a relationship with someone who doesn't value me. I don't owe anyone my financial support in exchange for basic respect. And I definitely don't owe anyone the chance to accidentally leave me behind again. Here's what I learned. People will treat you exactly as badly as you allow them to. For 3 years, I allowed Ryan's family to see me as a convenient source of funding, rather than a person deserving of respect. I allowed Ryan to hide behind lies while I carried the weight of our life together. I allowed Margaret to make me feel guilty for having the very success that supported her son's lifestyle. The train station wasn't the problem. It was just the moment I finally saw the problem clearly. Some people will say I was too extreme, that I should have given them another chance, but I'd been giving chances for 3 years. How many chances does someone need to treat you like a human being instead of an ATM? Now, when people show me who they are, I believe them the first time. And when someone's actions tell me they don't value my presence in their life, I make that absence permanent. I'm not bitter anymore. I'm grateful. Grateful that Margaret showed me exactly what I meant to that family. Grateful that Ryan revealed his true priorities when he chose comfort over courage. Grateful that I finally chose myself. The best revenge isn't anger or spite. It's a life well lived on your own terms, surrounded by people who see your worth. If you enjoyed my content, please like and subscribe to my channel, and turn on notifications so you can watch more engaging content. Thank you for watching until the end. If you were in my situation, what would you have done? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to see how many people think I handled this right versus those who think I should have given them another chance. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel to see more stories about choosing yourself when everyone else won't. Because sometimes the best family trip is the one you take alone.